Welcome back. I'm Brent Gorter, and I'm talking with Lance Dixon here from the local volunteer fire service, the Rural Fire Force. Sorry, let me get the title right, Lance. How do you refer to yourself?
Well, I'm actually employed by Auckland Council, but we have the Great Barrier Island Voluntary Rural Fire Force, which does the work for the council on island.
Now, we've just been sitting and talking about, we've gone as far as stating that, generators are the most immediate source of fire risk here on the island. It's a huge issue from the statistics that Lance has been looking at. And we've been talking about the risk the whole island, the landscape here presents for just a fire to burst out and continue through, especially this time of year. And we started talking, okay, well, how can you go back home tonight and talk to your family and say, okay, how do we prevent fires here, and how do we manage them once they happen, and are we ready to get out as quickly as we have to when necessary? Lance, if people sort of want to go around and do as we always advise them to, but I certainly forgot last time I heard about a fire to go home and check my generator and all that thing. What are the kind of things that you've got to can look at to reduce the risk of fire?
Probably the biggest thing is the vegetation around your exhaust system. So I would suggest everybody goes home tonight and look at your generator exhaust and clear all the vegetation for a good couple of metres away from where that exhaust is. That's a really good first start. Then maybe look in your generator shed. A poorly maintained generator is going to be at more risk of fire, so you want to make sure you've got no oily rags and other stuff lying around that generator shed that's just looking for a spark, before it ignites. So, yeah, just general housekeeping around the generator, but certainly clear around that exhaust. And there are other things you can do. The sparkies on the island, they can all fit heat detectors in your generator sheds. That will turn the generator off if the heat level rises too much. Very easy to set up sprinkler systems in your generator shed. And
they're not that expensive, I believe.
No, to be honest, you can now get house sprinkler systems that probably cost about $2,000 set up.
That's for the house. What about just for the generator?
Oh, well, the generator shed's really easy. That's just a water with a bit of pressure and a sprinkler head. Yeah. Okay.
In fact, the fire assessor, or the damage assessor that came, or rather no, the cause and effects investigator that came out was sent out by the insurance company, recommended a dry powder system as well, being an option.
Yeah, that's probably a slightly more expensive sort of setup, I would think.
The other thing I'd add to your list is just because obviously I'm looking for a replacement generator for the one that burned down New Year's Day, and the supplier said, even my neighbour Tony recommended that, to install extra ventilation for these small units, and Tony has basically bought himself a 240 volt vent that just basically plugs straight in the generator, so it starts up automatically when the generator comes in, and makes sure that there's enough air coming around. And that's the generator supplier was very keen to emphasise as well. It's got to have these things burn a lot of oxygen, and to evacuate that is important.
Yeah, no, really good idea. It doesn't cost you anything once the generator's running. The fan comes on automatically and keeps things cool. I would still stress that the best thing people can do is get away from generators altogether, to be honest. Solar panels are really coming down in price and getting far more efficient, and rather than throwing money into a generator, you're probably more sensible throwing it into a couple of these new large efficient solar panels that and get to a situation where you only use the generator on very rare occasions rather than every single day.
And that cost calculation is actually getting surprisingly well balanced, because the price of a generator from $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 buys a lot of kilowatts of solar panels.
Yeah, absolutely. And the diesel prices are only going up, and into the future that's going to become a major problem with fuel on the island. So if you can sort of get away from that situation now, then the sooner you do it, the more savings you're going to make long term.
Now, that's to prevent the fire, but once the fire kicks in, I saw our generator shed went up in minutes. We were at home. We saw the smoke pretty much as soon as it appeared. But basically, when I approached the generator shed, it was just the generator area was in flames. But within 10 minutes, the entire shed was burning around the roof, etc. So it's incredibly fast the way it goes.
Yeah, you've got very little time to do anything, to be honest. Fire increases in size really quickly, and within a couple of minutes it can go from a situation that you can do something about to a situation where, you've just got to get out if you want to save your lives. So I would say if you could get onto a fire situation very early on, it's definitely worth trying to attack that with a fire extinguisher, but extinguishers only work on very small fires, and I think once it becomes clear that you've lost control of it, then you're best getting away as quickly as possible. So at the first sign of fire, dial 111 before you do anything else. And that 111 call sets off the fire alarm at the Trifena station, which calls out every single volunteer on the island. So, 111 is definitely the first best approach.
And something, again, a lesson I still learned out of this one, as much as I wanted to stop the fire early, it is dangerous. I got myself burnt, even though I believed I was being careful. And in that sort of situation, I think protecting yourself is a lot more important than protecting a few tools or a few other things.
Yeah, and part of our training is, the first thing our volunteers have got to do before anything else is kit up in their full personal protective gear, which is fire retardant, overalls, boots, helmets and gear before they even go near the fire. The second thing they should be doing is a good size up of the situation and actually seeing what hazards and dangers are involved. We've all got really hazardous things on our sites on Great Barrier Island. We've all got a lot of fuel, a lot of dive tanks. Dive tanks are incredibly dangerous because when they heat up, they explode. They don't vent off. Large gas bottles usually just will burn out their little vent and vent the gas into the atmosphere, so that as long as they are venting and burning, they're actually completely safe.
So here's a good point, because it's tempting to put, you got a shed out there, there's always lots of things to put away, so here, okay, message number one is no dive bottles anywhere near there. Obviously put your fuel somewhere else. What else should not be in a generator shed because of fire risk?
Anything that's going to burn, so paints, fuels, anything that's inflammable. Like the generator shed is an ignition point sitting there waiting to happen, so don't put anything valuable or inflammable in that area. Should be generator only.
What about the batteries? Are they a fire risk?
Batteries can be a fire risk, yep, and they're also a problem through suppression too, because you can arc across the terminals and have them explode. The batteries are also giving off hydrogen gas at all time, which is a flammable gas, so it certainly would make sense that the gases are isolated from the generator and well ventilated, so that gas can always escape.
Now, somebody mentioned buckets of sand. Are they any good in the kind of fire risk we're talking about here?
I don't know. What would you do with a bucket of sand? Bury your head? A bucket of sand doesn't sound a particularly helpful tool to have at all, actually. The best thing you do is try and attack the fire while it's small, and then call 111 and get out of the way. Look at evacuating your premises and leave it to the professionals to actually fight the fire.
Well, talking about evacuation, because really the one, I think we talked about this before, that it's fires can catch up quicker than one could expect them to. So one has to make the call, say, let's get out of here very quickly. And then secondly, at this stage, there's not much time to actually collect things around the house and even decide where one's put one's passport or the important documents or whatever, photographs, whatever it takes. So how does one prepare for an evacuation? Because really, when the time comes, one has to be sort of in auto drive. What should one be doing beforehand?
Yeah, I think every family should have a fire evacuation plan so that everyone in the family knows exactly what they're going to do in that situation. And, your fire went happened in the middle of the day. Imagine if that had been sort of late at night when, people were asleep and it was dark and you couldn't see what was going on. That just makes the situation just far more serious and far more dangerous. So if you've already got a plan, the family knows what to do. If you wake up in this situation, the children know what to do. What to grab and where to go as a safe zone, and that's a really first step to making your family safe.
So really, I think the message that comes away from what we're talking about today is to kind of go home, sit down with the family, and talk through how to reduce the risk of fire. Go and check your generator, and of course, there's other fire risks around the house as well. In winter, it's fireplaces and burning,
gas heaters, all that sort of thing. Yeah.
And then to be ready to fight the fire as long as one can. Call 111 immediately before trying to do anything else. And then lastly, be ready to evacuate, I guess.
Yep, so smoke alarms are really cheap fire insurance. For $15 you can have something in your house that's going to give you forewarning. They go off when you burn your toast. So, if you've got anything in your house that's actually caught fire, you're going to have time to get out with a smoke alarm. So, very cheap insurance. And it's amazing the number of people who've got smoke alarms in their houses with no batteries in them. Or the smoke alarms are still sitting in the wardrobe in the packet. And we've actually had that on 3 different fires on the island where we've found the smoke alarm still packed away. So I think on daylight saving every year you're supposed to change the batteries in your smoke alarm and be just sensible maybe where you locate that smoke alarm, because you don't want it going off every time you burn the toast, otherwise you will pull the batteries out and not take it seriously. So put it somewhere where it's going to protect you when you're in your bedroom and give you time to use your escape routes to get out of the house.
I think that's a good thought to take away. Thanks very much, Lance Dixon, for talking to me and the listeners today about how to manage fire risk at home.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Rent, for the opportunity.